Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hello everybody, I hope that you're doing well. Today we're going to work on JUZ 1 of Al Quran El Kareem. There are 30 JUZ in Al Quran El Kareem and 60 hizb. One JUZ is made of 2 hizb. I'm going to do a small summary of each JUZ to underline and abbreviate the main teachings and to try to clarify their understanding. I'm aware that more likely I will make some mistakes and I risk forgetting important points, so please be so kind as to leave your comments, and Allahu A'lam and Al-Kamalu Lillah. But my intention is to try to help you understand and meditate on the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to put them into practice in our daily life and to open our hearts to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His words in Al Quran El Kareem. We're gonna see that some ayats have the purpose to imbue ourselves with educational values. Others are written to teach us the concept of faith or to show us the Quranic rules of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or to achieve any other purpose. The first JUZ deals with several issues related to the guidance and the governance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on earth and the history of the previous Muslim Ummah. The first JUZ begins with Surah Al-Fatiha, the most important of the surah of Al Quran El Kareem. This surah, we repeat it every day at least 17 times, and without which our prayers would not be valid. Every Muslim must know it by heart to perform the 5 daily prayers. The virtues of the surah in general of Al Quran El Kareem are enormous, they are considerable, and those of Al-Fatiha are even more so. It is named the opening of Al Quran, Al-Fatiha. It is considered as a means of healing and well-being daily. It is perfect. It is a supreme source of recognition and reconciliation. It's a type of appeasement. For he who knows its value and recites it, Surah Al-Fatiha blesses and preserves strength. It dispels anguish, worry, fear, and sadness. A small translation of Surah Al-Fatiha is in the name of Allah, the entirely merciful, the specially merciful, the kind, the benevolent. All praise to Allah, the Lord of the worlds, the kind, the considerate, the controller of Judgment Day. We adore you, you alone, and from you alone we seek help. Guide us to the straight path, the path of those whom you have favored, not those who are condemned or those who go astray. Surah Al-Fatiha, through which the Quran El Kareem is introduced, is the most eminent surah of Al Quran El Kareem. It insists on several notions. The first one is the praise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, glory and majesty to Him, which represents the first half of the surah. The second point is the exclusivity of worship and seeking help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, exalted be He. The third point is the explanation of what guidance and the straight path is. The mention of the categories of those who are deprived of it. Whoever recites or listens Surah Al-Fatiha 17 times, we already talked about that, has the obligation not to resemble the disbelievers. The creed seeks refuge from the path of the disbelievers, since it says, guide us to the right path, Sirat al-Mustaqim, the path of those whom you have bestowed with favors, and not of those who have incurred your wrath, nor of those who have gone astray, which is Ayah 6 and Ayah 7 of Surah Al-Fatiha. The second surah of the first JUZ is Surah Al-Baqarah. Surah Al-Baqarah is the longest surah in Al Quran El Kareem. It is made of 286 ayat. Surah Al-Baqarah was revealed in Medina after the migration of the Prophet Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. At the time, 2/3 of the Quran El Kareem had been revealed in Mecca during a tense situation. In Medina, Muslims face new challenges. They had to settle in a new city with Arabs and Jews. The two Arab tribes are the Aus and the Khazraj. They have both a long history of rivalry. There were also 3 Jewish tribes. They had moved to Medina after being expelled from Jerusalem by the Romans. The Jews were literate, competent, and well off compared to the Arabs, and believed that they were the chosen people. Surah Al-Baqarah opens by describing the people of Al-Medina. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala divides them into 3 categories, 3 types of people: the believers, the disbelievers, or the hypocrites. And it describes the characteristics of each with regards to the Prophet Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his message. The faithful are described as having a firm belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the unseen realities, and the hereafter. They pray regularly and they give charity generously. The first JUZ talks about the difference between believers and non-believers. The disbelievers have closed minds and they do not want to listen. And the position of the hypocrites, their disease, their misdeeds, and their blindness is mentioned as well by listing their bad habits of being deceivers and liars and how they mock believers and cause trouble because they are ignorant and bewildered. The part in Surah Al-Baqarah devoted to hypocrites is more substantial because of the serious danger they represent for the community. Indeed, their intentions are undetectable, they are unpredictable because they oscillate, they swing between the camp of the believers and that of the disbelievers. Surah Al-Baqarah also begins with the testament that it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who revealed the Holy Quran to guide those who are aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Only those who seek the way, the guidance, who want to be just can benefit from it, from the advices of this holy book, Quran El Kareem. The challenge of Quran El Kareem is that it will guide many people, but unfortunately many will remain in error. Mankind must worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. There should not be a partner in the divinity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Worship is a way of being grateful to the Lord who created and sustains and cares for mankind. Those who worship Him will have heaven, Al-Jannah, an incredible reward. The surah also talks about how to teach the hearts of believers to submit to the commands and prohibitions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and warns them against taking the example of the Jews who failed with their alliance with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The first JUZ is about the story of the creation of Sayyidina Adam. It starts from ayah 30 to 36 in Surah Al-Baqarah and relate the way in which Sayyidina Adam was instituted the successor on earth. Sayyidina Adam is designated by the noble title of Khalifa. Sayyidina Adam is honored by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and instructed on all things in the universe. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives him the ability to speak and the ability to know and give him access to knowledge. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose the human race to be worthy of his Khalifa. Angels were ordered to prostrate before him, but Shaitan refused, and when Sayyidina Adam and his wife Eve ate from the forbidden tree, they were expelled from paradise and sent to earth. It is the first story in Quran El Kareem which contains a message informing the Muslims of the identity of the greatest enemy, Shaitan, whose hostility dates to the time of the father of humanity, Sayyidina Adam. It is in this first JUZ that Banu Israel are mentioned and their position regarding the Quran El Kareem and the messengers in general and our Prophet Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in particular. The history of the Jews begins from ayah 40 to ayah 141 in Surah Al-Baqarah, and it dominates the rest of the first JUZ. The Jews are the children of the Prophet Sidna Yaqub, the grandson of Sidna Ibrahim. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds them of his favors. He had a special contract with them. He gave them faith, laws, and scriptures. They are reminded of how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved them from the slavery of Pharaoh. Unfortunately, not all of them fully appreciated this and were ungrateful. Despite their betrayal, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed them. In the middle of the JUZ, there is the story of the cow, from which the surah takes its name. A man has been murdered, but another innocent man is sentenced to death. Sidna Musa told them to stop the execution and to investigate the truth. They were to sacrifice a cow and sweep up the corpse with it. As they did, the murdered man rose from the dead and identified his murderer. It is unfortunate that after seeing such miracles, there are still people refusing to believe in the resurrection. The story of the cow highlights the idea that attitudes and values are at the heart of a just society. So be aware of hesitations of the commandment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and do not prevaricate or ridicule them, as this leads to hardening of the heart. The believer must be willing to resign himself to the judgment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it is for this reason that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praises the believer at the end of Surah Al-Baqarah. The following ayat of the first JUZ speak and despise the Israelites. It reproaches them for having broken the contract, their alliance with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and for having killed prophets and for being arrogant and stubborn. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds them that they disrespected the angels, such as Jibril and Mikael, and the Prophet Sulaiman. That they accused Sidna Sulaiman of being a sorcerer and a magician, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exonerated him from such fraudulent practices. The Prophet Sidna Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam eagerly preached and invited the Jews of Medina to accept Islam. However, their religious pride, their tribal jealousy, and economic prowess stopped them. Moreover, their love of this world had kept them from seeing the truth. This underlines their blind quest for the earthly power. Recalling their wildness, Muslims are warned to take note. The supreme status of the Messenger Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, our Prophet, is highlighted in the passage by teaching believers how to address him correctly. They are invited to become one community and to cease sectarian quarrels and tribal quarrels. In the first JUZ in Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah 113 and 114, also speaks of the behavior of Christians who forbade the mentioning of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the mosques and persisted in destroying them in a shameful manner. After making sincere and powerful argument for embracing Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala declares that people are free to worship as they see fit, quoted in ayah 114 in Surah Al-Baqarah. The greatness of Allah's creation is the proof of His existence. Rejection of the disbelievers does not diminish His glory. To be an example to follow the matters of religion is not an honor worthy of the unjust. My commitment, says Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, does not apply to the unjust. We see it in ayah 124 in Surah Al-Baqarah. The history of the Jewish people began 3,000 years ago with their great-grandfather Sidna Ibrahim. It opens with his prayer for his descendant whom he settled in Mecca. Prayers for messengers to be raised among them, the messenger Sidna Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So why don't you accept him? Sidna Ibrahim's fate was deep in there, was a long-term vision for his children, including Sidna Ismail, his grandchildren as well. This JUZ mentions the sacred mosque, who built it and how it was built. The Prophet Sidna Ibrahim. He and his son built the Kaaba and prayed for a prophet to come. Sidna Ibrahim submitted to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and this is the message he and his sons gave to their offspring so far. Before ending the history of the Jews, the last advice of Sidna Yaqub to his 12 sons is mentioned as well in Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah 135 to ayah 136. They say to you, become Jews or become Christian, and you will be guided. Tell them, in fact, our religion is the religion of Ibrahim, who was a true Hanif and who was not an idolater. Say, we believe in Allah and in what was revealed to us and in what was revealed to Sidna Ibrahim. This part describes the unity of the Abrahamic religions, emphasizing that Islam is not a new religion, but it verifies, confirms, and continues the teaching of Judaism and Christianity. They too agree to believe in one God and to serve humanity. Al-Islam supersedes Judaism and Christianity as the final religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the Quran is the final revelation. Educating children and giving them value of good does not obey to a time limit. It is an imperative that rests until the last day of life. It is stated in Surah Al-Baqarah 133, where you witnesses when death came to Jacob and he said to his sons, "What will you worship after me?" They answered, "We will worship your divinity and the divinity of your fathers, Abraham, Ismail, and Ishaq, unique divinity, and to which we are submitted." In Surah Al-Baqarah 133, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Here is a generation that is well and truly gone, to it has acquired, and to you what you have acquired, and you will not be asked to account for what they were doing." Ayah 141 of Surah Al-Baqarah. This ayah is an answer addressed to those who are satisfied with having a pious ancestry. Indeed, such an ancestry does not relate anything to the human being, even if it goes back to Sidna Ibrahim or Sidna Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rather, it is the works, what good deeds have you done, that are authentic. Wallahu a'lam. I hope that this small summary of the first JUZ of Quran El Kareem helped you. I wish you the best. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bye-bye.